Hi there, it's Vertyll of Agridom Solutions Corp. In this video, we'll be discussing about operation process specification of agricultural drones. So for its contents, first we have preparation before operation. Second, we have during operation. And lastly, after operation. So preparation before operation. So here we have a checklist of the required items that we need to prepare before going on site. For tasks and equipments, so it is important to know how long or how many days, or is it just a day, when we have the operation. For our aircraft efficiency, it is also important to set our targets. How many acres are we to finish in a day? And lastly, we recommend or we suggest to bring 2 units, keeping one as a spare. So for our equipments, we have our batteries. So we need to carry enough batteries in order for a continuous and smooth operation. Secondly, we have our we need to bring propellers and extra ESC. So it is also important to protect ourselves. So we need to carry some hats, we carry our gloves, our masks, and also overalls, just to ensure for safe operation. Also, for our spraying tools, we also need to bring a vat, which is a container with a scale to accurately measure the required pesticide. We also have our technical concentrate bucket, our containers, and especially prepare a funnel with a built-in filtering system. For our tools, we bring our vise, our headset, and scissors. Communication tools such as a walkie-talkie, and prepare also toothbrush for our nozzles in case of clogging. So for our tool transportation, it is highly recommended to carry a drone box to transport the drone. It protects the device and also it isolates any smell. For the battery case, it stores and protects the battery and prevents self-ignition. For one equipment to also consider bringing is a generator, because some areas don't have electricity and lack of batteries may cause the operation to delay. On the on-site staff arrangement, we have 1 or 2 people per aircraft. First, we have the pilot, which mainly operates the aircraft, and we have the assistant, which helps prepare the chemicals, refill the chemicals, and charge the batteries. In pesticide preparation, we have water-based agent, and another one is the powder-based chemicals, which we highly recommend you avoid or you minimize. When it comes to preparing chemicals, it may be prepared by the pilot itself, and also it can be prepared by the client, but the pilot needs to discuss with them in advance how to prepare their chemicals. So important notices, we have no high poisonous pesticide, also no unlabeled pesticide, and no unqualified pesticides. So it is extremely dangerous to use any of the above mentioned. Also, before we spray, it is very important to survey the environment. It is important to learn about the environment of the operation area in advance. So we, as a pilot, reduce the risk when planning the flight route. So also here we talked about the risk in flying, one of which is the trees and other obstacles. We have dead tree branches. Now, these obstacles must be taken into consideration. So we also have the power lines and cables. So high voltage power lines must be avoided because of magnetic interference and the electric shock. We also have the terrain. Dramatic changes in terrain can increase the risk of the flight. For our surroundings, it is very important to learn in advance to avoid accidents, especially when there are people around. In dispensing pesticides, prepare the chemicals needed before the mission. So we have ways to measure the pesticide. We need to follow the stated dosage in the labels of the pesticides. Now, let us proceed to the things that we should check before flight. Firstly, we have our stick modes. We have our mode 2 or our mode 1. In mode 2, the accelerator is on the left side, which is the most normal remote mode of a multi-rotor drone. And we have our mode 1, which is in which the accelerator is on the right side. We need to confirm the remote mode before use, especially in a new drone. So second, we have the antennas. So make sure that the antenna is not pointing on the drone. So the signal on top and the bottom of the antenna is the weakest. So please do not point it to the aircraft. Next, we have our RC battery levels. So in here, we have our battery status. And next one, we can see that our charger, when it's solid green, it is fully charged. Next, we have our sleeve and our buckle. So the T16 and the T20 have no sensors, so be wary about this. And for the T30 and the T10, you have the advanced arm sensors. So it does not take off when it alarms. Now, let's move on with during operation. So in chemical refilling, we need to have a funnel because the chemicals may not leak onto the battery and the distributor board. Otherwise, the battery plug or distributor board may be corroded and may cause the aircraft to break down. For the takeoff position, don't take off on top of cars and other metal surfaces. Firstly, it is very dangerous. And secondly, it may cause the compass to malfunction. So for pilot position, the pilot should have a good view when flying the drone to observe the aircraft no matter which modes are adopted. For taller crops, pilot should stand in a higher position, but let's ensure that the position is safe. So in spraying, we have different terrains. We have our flat terrains. For example, we have our corn, our rice, and wheat farms. And we have our mountainous terrains, which is relatively dispersed and small in size. So when spraying, it is important to consider the route length because a shorter route may cause the drone to frequently turn, which lowers the efficiency. So also we have to be ready about emergencies such as hyperthermia because sometimes we are spraying in very high temperatures. So also we need to be ready for chemical poisoning. So we have steps to avoid such instances. Well, first, in spraying, we need to stand upwind. when preparing and flying the aircraft. So we wear protective masks and glasses and clean the aircraft before putting it indoors for storage. So in case of rain, land the aircraft and cut the power supply. So dry the propellers, motors, base of the aircraft, and arms before folding. So one important note, don't fold the aircraft in the rain. So for plastics, we need to stay away from them. If the plastic is wrapped around the motor, immediately land the drone. So after operation, so when disposing chemical containers, so do not abandon empty bottles randomly and don't use them for other purposes. So for the aircraft maintenance, we have our propulsion system. So we need to check the propellers because installing them incorrectly may cause accidents and crash. So we also need to check the motors. So check if there are any noise. And we check the dynamic balance of motors. So if the aircraft vibrates, the motor should be changed. For our spraying system, we check the nozzles. We clean the filter net and nozzle with water, or we use a toothbrush if the blockage is severe. So check the tank if it is clean. So clean up the leftover in the tank. Otherwise, they may influence the operation or be poisonous. So before transportation, we have to clean the aircraft thoroughly. We fix the arm and propeller with a strap before transporting. And the aircraft should be stored horizontally for transportation. So for our aircraft transportation, as we said earlier, we have our transportation box. So it can protect the aircraft and isolate the smell of chemicals. So if there is no box, the aircraft should be fixed well and enough space should be left for it to avoid collision. So for our batteries, put batteries in an explosion-proof box. So this is not only protects the battery but also reduces the risk of ignition. So lastly, during winter, so let us keep the aircraft in a dry environment to avoid rustiness and corrosion of the circuit. And we clean the nozzle and chemical container and pump thoroughly before storage. So keep the battery voltage at around 3.85 volts. So the batteries also be charged and discharged every 40 to 50 days. So don't store the battery with full power. So that's all for this video. See you again.